Hi, I'm Nuala Beatty, and I am the owner, designer, and maker of Reflections Handcrafted Jewelry. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make a bracelet that I call Celtic Laces Bracelet. And the reason I call it that, that's not actually its name, it's just that if you can see the one on my arm, when I first looked at the design, it reminded me of the laces on the dance shoes for either Irish or Scottish dancing. So I decided that that's what I was going to call the bracelet. So this one on my arm, they can be any combination of colors. You can see that that one has black crystals and silver beads. And this one here has a combination of purple crystals, pink rings, and a stainless steel bead. And you can make them in any color you want, and you can make them actually in any material you want. I just happen to like these ones. And you can have it where the jump rings or laces are the same color as the beads, or a contrasting color that matches the crystals, as you can see in the other ones here. And then on these ones, I've used a button as the closure, which looks, has a Celtic design on it. So I actually sell the bracelets made, or I sell kits to make the bracelets, which comes with an instruction booklet and a little kit with everything in it that you need, all counted out and so on. So I'm going to open the kit now and show you what that consists of. Basically, you have a button, and you can use any size button, but I generally use one that's probably between the size of a dime and a nickel. And then you need, I usually use 6 crystals. I probably use Swarovski crystals most of the time. And you can really make this bracelet quite fancy by using Swarovski crystals, and the beads using sterling silver beads. These beads are sterling silver plated, just to keep the cost down. And then you need a selection of what we call jump rings. And again, these can be matching your main bead color, or they can be matching your crystal color. And then you need, it's 24 inches, 2 feet of 1 millimeter leather that we're gonna string it on. And of course you need my business card that shows you my, I have an Etsy shop online, and I'll give you that information. Actually, it's on the sign here, if you can see it. It's basically Handmade Jewelry by NB is the name of the store if you're in Etsy and you look it up. So the very first thing we're going to do, and this bracelet is a lot of fun to make, and it looks really nice when you're finished, and most people, when I teach them how to make it, they can't believe they made something so nice all themselves. But the longest and most tedious part of making this bracelet is the first step, and that's closing the jump rings. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that you need 2 little pliers. These are both chain nose pliers, and you can get them at jewelry supply stores or places like Michael's, or a hardware store that has little, sort of craft tweezers, pliers. And then I just have a scissors that you need at the end if you're cutting the leather. So the jump rings, I have closed most of them already because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. As I said, it's the most not fun step of the process. So what happens is, when you get a jump ring in the bag, it is not fully closed. And people a lot of times ask, well, why? Why can't you buy them like that? It's because of the way they're made. They spiral wire around a tube or a mandrel and then cut through the wire. So when you take them off, the 2 ends are slightly apart. So how do you close them? How you open or close a jump ring is that you take the pliers and keep them vertical like this, and only move the ring back and forth while pushing the pliers together to get the end to come as flush together as possible. And you really want it that way, as smooth, no gaps, no you know, jagged edges, because then of course when you put it on, you could potentially feel those. So you just want to go, some people say you hear a little noise when they come together, like a little snick. And then you know, but when you see that it really looks like a complete ring and you can't see the opening, then you know you've got it done right. I'm just going to show you one more time. Make sure you never pull the rings apart this way or try to shove them ends together. It's always a backward and forward motion, moving the ends together as you do it. Okay, so now we have our rings, and there's in the kits there's 29 of them. And how many beads you use, how many rings you use, all depends on the size of your wrist, obviously, and the resulting bracelet. So I have in the instructions here, I have a few guidelines. If your wrist is a certain inch, then you know you should make a bracelet this many, and I tell you how many beads and how many hyperlinks you need for that. You always need 6 crystals, the button, the leather, those are always the same. Okay, so now that was the whole first step in the instructions, where it's on putting these together. So the next thing you're going to need is your piece of leather. And we are going to fold it in half to find the middle. And it doesn't have to be 100% precise. It just makes it easier for stringing the closer together you have the ends as being equal. So we're just going to put one end of the leather through the button. And we want to get that button right in the middle. And then we're going to do a knot. I think it's called a wreath knot, where you go right over left and then left over right. So you want to, you want to do the 2 ties so that that button doesn't move around. So now once you do that, your ends might be no longer even, but that's okay because I've given a lot of extra leather. So to make it easier to string, you'll just snip that off so that they now are even. So the first thing you put on, well, the first thing, when you take out your silver beads, I'm going to put them on something. I usually have a beading tray so the beads don't run away and end up all over the floor. So when I open the beads, I usually divide them into 2 piles, 2 equal piles, except there's 29 of them, so obviously one will have more than the other. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so. Okay, so there we go. So now the very first thing you put on, you take 1 string of the leather and you put a silver bead on that end of the wire. And sometimes, because these beads are hollow, sometimes you have to poke around at it to get the string to go through the leather string. Okay, and the next step is to take one of the jump rings and put it on over both of the strings of leather. So you've got a bead on one side and the jump ring goes across both. So now you have to take the other side of the leather and put a silver bead on that side. So now you see it's starting, you can see already it's starting to form its finished look, as you can see on the bracelet on my wrist. So then you just, for your first half of your silver rings, you just keep repeating that process, going back and forth between the leather strings. Now, if you find that you've got 12 beads on and you look back and you go, oh no, I put 2 beads on the same side, not a problem, you just take it off and start over. It's frustrating, but it can easily be undone. But you want to make sure before you get to the final step that you do that little check and make sure that they're always alternating. So we do this with the first half of beads. So what I've done now, half of the silver beads are on the strings, and we are now going to switch to our crystals or alternate bead. So again, I have 6 Aquamarine Swarovski crystals here, and I'm just gonna take them out of their little bag, and they usually come on a string, like plastic strings, so you have to cut them apart. This is when one drops on the floor and you spend the next 10 minutes looking for it. One of my daughters is very good at spotting them, so she's usually my bead finder when I drop things. Anyway, okay, so now you follow the exact same pattern as you were doing with the silver beads, but you do the crystals. The only thing I would caution you is some crystals, the hole is not big enough to go over the 1 millimeter leather. So you really want to make sure when you're buying them that hopefully they're not in a package that you can poke the leather through and make sure they have a decent sized hole, not just a teeny tiny. Okay, so now see it looks pretty much the same. You don't get the effect until all the crystals are on, really. And the more, these are pretty light colored, so a lot of people, when I've done workshops, they like to use the black crystals, so the jet Swarovski or a garnet colored, really deep red color, because they show up really nicely against the silver. But it depends on the look. Sometimes I like light and airy colors for the summer, and then deeper colors and a whole darker look for the winter. And again, you can use any materials. These are the ones I choose, but you can use wooden beads, stones, anything if you like, things like lapis lazuli or malachite or any color. And sometimes I have, of course, because I make them, I have enough to have a different color so I can go with all my outfits. Kind of like masks are becoming. A lot of people say, oh, your mask matches your outfit. Lovely. Oops. It's easy to drop all this on the floor, by the way. I do it regularly. Yet I find making jewelry very relaxing. Except when I'm swearing. But I'll try not to do that today. Okay, so now I have the 6 crystals on. And I'm just going to get this last one on there and show you that you can now see the color starting. Another thing, some people like to, people get very creative when they come to workshops, is instead of having the same color jump ring as the crystal, they'll use silver jump rings to, just the way you use blue with the silver, just to really contrast against the 2 colors, more of a contrast. Okay, so now we have the other half of our beads that we divided in the beginning, and or roughly half, and then we just, again, the pattern is the same all the time, and then what you do is you just put on the rest of your silver beads till they're all used up, and then we're going to do the final step of doing the clasp. Okay, so now we have finished putting on the rest of our silver beads, so you can see the bracelet is nearly finished. It's coming together. It's very sparkly and shiny and pretty. And I was just thinking that one of the things I should tell you is these, what I call jump rings, have no actual functional value in this bracelet. They're simply for looks. I'm not sure why they call them jump rings, but they're certainly used in a lot of jewelry. Like if you look at any necklace you have or bracelet, right where the clasp is, you're going to always have something called a jump ring. And it's basically a connector. But here I'm using them as an actual a visual design element, because if I just had beads, it wouldn't look as pretty. So now I am going to tie a double knot in the leather here at the end. Well, the very last thing that goes on, by the way, is a bead, not a jump ring. So you've got your last bead and you tie, and you don't want to pull this knot really, really tight. It's not until the second one. That's when you're going to really give it a good tug. So now you've got these 2 little tails, and we're going to make, if you look here, we're going to make a buttonhole, so to speak, that you're just going to put the button through. You see, so you just, when I tie it, it's just going to be like a buttonhole, and that's how you put the bracelet on. So I just use, sort of tie them both together like this around my finger, and sometimes your buttonhole will be too big or too small, but that's okay. You're not going to cut the final leather until you're sure you've got the right size. Now, so you can see there's a buttonhole kind of effect there. And what you do now, before you cut anything, you're going to try to put the button through. And you want it to feel pretty tight because leather stretches, as you all know. And I just wanted to say that if you make your bracelet and it's snug, don't worry, because this one a year and a half ago was snug, but leather stretches just like leather shoes and so on and so forth. So you do want to probably have it, depending on how you like it. I mean, some people like it to hang down there like that, and so that's all up to your preference as well. So now if you feel that, you know, that looks pretty good, I mean, the button side is usually not the side that faces out all the time, but it does turn around. Then you just take, and leaving about, not even a quarter of an inch, about a quarter of an inch, you just snip off the rest of the leather, and there you go. You have your bracelet. So you see, that didn't take very much time to do. I mean, obviously, I didn't show you every single bead on there because that would be boring. But now we have another lovely bracelet to add there. And I want to tell you that on my Etsy site, which is where I sell my jewelry online, I sell these bracelets for $25 when they have the plated silver beads. If they have sterling silver beads, then they are $40. And if you buy the kit, which comes with a detailed instruction booklet with you know, pictures and so on, and my phone number if you get into trouble, my email, and also the last page has all of my contact information and my social media links. So I also then sell the whole package together for $35 for a kit, and then you have the knowledge and instructions there to be able to make your own bracelets, and or make them for friends, make them in different colors and different materials and so on. So I hope you enjoyed this little workshop, and I really hope that you know, that you go on to the website and have a look at my bracelets, or if you want to contact me through any of my contact info, I certainly can meet you in person, socially distanced and masked, of course. And because I do have some kits already made up in a variety of different colors. So thank you so much for watching. Bye now. One customer from going out, I mean, they had to put cones and everything near the cash register. And then she said, so, you know, you greet the customer at the door because they can only have 3 customers at a time or whatever.